Now, if you are like everybody else in this world and you struggle with the mind, then keep watching, because in this video I will explain to you from the Vedic perspective how to control the mind with the use of intelligence and sense control. Now, if you haven't seen my other videos, then have a look at those first, because this video will make a lot more sense if you have watched those. So the intelligence is one of the aspects of the subtle body. And the intelligence is not necessarily book knowledge, right, or academic knowledge that you may think intelligence is. So intelligence from the Vedic perspective is the ability to discriminate, right? It's the ability to discriminate right from wrong, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, and how to understand what is truth and what is not truth, right? Now, this is quite a philosophical principle in terms of explaining what intelligence is, but that is the angle that I'm going to be talking about intelligence from. And the Sanskrit word for intelligence is Buddhi. So the intelligence is an aspect of the subtle body that controls and can govern the mind. So the mind is likened to a child, and the intelligence is likened to a parent. So the child may have unlimited demands, just like in the previous video I talked about the mind having desires, unlimited desires. But the intelligence is the aspect of the subtle body that will then decide whether the mind does this or that. Now, if the intelligence is strong, then it will be able to guide the mind appropriately. But if the intelligence is weakened, then the mind will be very, very unsteady, right? We just can take the example of a child and a parent. If the parent has an understanding of what is right and wrong for the child, then it will be able to discipline the child. If the parent knows what is right for the child, then it will be able to make decisions that are going to be healthy for the child, is going to be helpful for the child. But if the parent doesn't understand what's right and wrong, then or actually doesn't really provide any rules and guidance and structure and discipline, then the child will be able to run free, and that can create problems later on. So in the same way, the mind is also like a child. It wants to do whatever it wants to do, and it's pleasure seeking, right? So the intelligence provides the guidance under what circumstances the mind can find happiness. So in order to strengthen the intelligence then, which then will strengthen the mind and control the mind, we need to be able to live by a certain moral standard. So this has been introduced into psychotherapy with Freud, when he would talk about the id, the ego, and the superego, right? The superego is the aspect of the consciousness that has to do with morality. In the similar sense, intelligence in the subtle body is almost like the superego that Freud talks about. It is about a moral code. We live by a certain standard of values and morals, and if we don't do that, then the mind or the id will be able to just run free and do what it wishes. Now, the Vedas define these moral codes or value system based upon who we are inherently from the Vedic perspective, which is the soul. So these certain guidelines and certain ways of living is supportive of our spiritual advancement or self-realization. And that is what intelligence is, the ability to discriminate between what is helpful to the essence of who we are, as opposed to our temporary pleasure-seeking desires. The Vedas talk about 4 main principles that humans need to live by. Now, there are a list of 24 qualities of a human being, but maybe I'll save that for another video. I'll just mention these 4 now, which are truthfulness, austerity, cleanliness, and non-violence. So these are the 4 principles that if one agrees to live by, it will strengthen the mind when tempted in the material world to act in certain ways that are against these principles, which then leads to an unhealthy lifestyle and a degraded society. So I'll just take non-violence as an example of these principles. So if somebody wants to live by non-violence, they want to value life, right? Or they want to value living peacefully, then the decisions that they will make in life, no matter what their mind and their senses want, will be according to that principle. And the biggest example that we can see now is veganism, right? The reason why so many people who have, for their whole life eaten meat and enjoyed it, can then completely give it up, which is pretty incredible to do if somebody has been having a habit for so long, every day, for years and years, to then just suddenly change that, right? How have they been able to do that when the mind is so unsteady and pleasure-seeking and demanding? It's because they live by a certain principle. They've agreed using their intelligence that, hey, this principle is what I want to live by, right? Intellectually, it makes sense. Yeah, I can discriminate that killing is not good, right? That's not what I want to put into my body, right? And I want to value life. I don't want to inflict pain. That's just an example of non-violence. Other aspects of non-violence is speaking harshly, right? Or refraining from speaking harshly. But going back to veganism, how has that been such a wave? It's because people have decided to live by a certain principle. And then no matter what their mind wants, no matter how their senses are drawn to certain types of food that they're probably being used to having, they say no. They can easily make that decision, and it is like that parent saying no to the child. Living by higher principles means that you can really direct the future of your life. It means that you can influence who you attract. It can influence what type of people you put yourself around. It can influence what you eat, what you read, basically everything that you choose to input into your mind, right? Which is then the second aspect of controlling the mind, which is sense control. Through living by certain principles, higher principles, you're able to then control not only the mind, but then the senses, right? Taking the vegan example for one, is that we live by a higher principle, and it means that the senses of the tongue is overridden by that firm decision of living in accordance to non-violence. But you know what? I'm actually going to suggest, that you pause this video, or at another time, you take a moment to actually write down a set of morals, a set of principles that you would want to live by, right? This will be a practical way of learning to strengthen your intelligence. Yeah, it could be truthfulness, it could be non-violence, it could be that you value education. Whatever it is, write a set of values that you will be able to live by, right? That will be able to guide your mind and guide your life in a certain direction where you'll be able to improve the quality of it and improve the quality of your mind. And you know what? Sign it. Make a commitment that these are the principles that I'm going to live by. Making that commitment is actually creating a samskar. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video. Samskar is an impression on the mind, right? When we go through life, all of our experiences leave mental impressions in the mind, creating memories, creating habits, creating future choices. So when you make a commitment, you're actually creating a samskara in your mind. And then that will direct your future. It will direct what you decide to do. It will direct how you want to live, and overall improve your well-being and improve your quality of life. That concludes this video on how to control the mind. Comment below what you found interesting, what you didn't, what you'd like to know more about. If you liked it, then give it a thumbs up, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye.